Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of It's an Okay Podcast.
Hi.
It's an extra special episode today because we're all together in the same room.
Oh my goodness.
And
Reach out and touch somebody's hand.
I was like, I don't know that. I thought you were going to say, we all need somebody to...
Never mind.
So how was everybody's weekend? We're all together, but, you know, we all had separate weekends, even though we're together.
We did.
Beth, how's your weekend?
My
It was your
weekend
birthday.
amazing. It was my birthday. I was a little too lit. I loved the cognitive dissonance for once because I was supposed to be in Mexico, but I'm here. So we pretended we were in Mexico.
Period.
Got home at 9 a.m. You know?
As you should.
That was the best 29th birthday ever.
Yay. I'm glad.
Yeah, it was actually really good.
Everybody was there.
Everybody showed up. Sister came into town, surprised
I
me.
know you cried.
Gucci bags.
Gucci big.
You're just gonna pass over those tears.
She is.
She is.
Look at her. Okay, Smelia, how was your weekend?
I had a great weekend.
That's it. Smelia's mans is in town. So her and her mans went to the boat. She took me with her. I was the third wheel. I tagged along. I was a tag along. But it was fun. We took a couple pictures of you guys
got
on the
to meet
boat.
him.
Yeah. Very nice. He's very knowledgeable, very smart. People in his crew is very nice as well.
Yeah.
My weekend was fun. I celebrated Beth's birthday and I sold the Jonas Brothers. Red dress. I did. I wore a red dress. Because it's only right. If you're going to go to a Jonas Brothers concert, you got to do it right.
Fair.
Yeah, but that's the recap. That's what everybody did this weekend.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking about
Toxic relationships and friendships. You can tell I'm excited about this.
yeah, it was really funny because like I was like, you guys, can we talk about more fun topics? And they're like, yeah, sure. And I was like, what's today's topic? And they were like, toxic relationships. So we're gonna have so much fun today.
Yeah, we are. I think it's gonna be a good episode. Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but I tend, maybe it's just me. No, I am clean
Is it
toxic.
me?
Is it me?
Am I the drama?
That's how I feel. But like, literally, I have dealt with so many toxic people, and I know that other people have dealt with toxic people, and so I just want to like.
Not you looking at me.
I was just saying that if you have, just talk about our experiences and like how we handle maybe those people, because like sometimes I want to gather someone's edges.
What does that mean?
Or put my hands on them, but I don't.
You know when you gather your edges in a ponytail? Gather somebody with a
When I want to gather your edges.
Oh,
I want to snatch your edges. I want to. Yeah.
Okay. Not okay. Oh, is that what that means? Yeah. I mean, yeah. I feel like we all deal with toxic people for sure, and I also think that something that I learned that's really helped me is like people are gonna be like who they are,
Yeah.
and they're gonna be who they are to anyone, and you just have to be the person who's like absolutely not. Because I think before, I felt a lot of the same way of feeling like I felt like toxic people were just like flocking to me. And until I was like, okay, you know what? If I just feel like someone's doing something, I'm just going to either remove them or take a step back. And I feel like I do spend a lot more time by myself. And I think that's why I was like, very hesitant to talk about this. Because I'm like, right now on the stage that I'm in my life, I spend a lot of time by myself. I'm by myself 97% of the time. I'm not going to lie to you.
But when you're black, you're never really alone.
Because truth be told,
Continue.
Can you please put that? That needs to be the thing.
That's a funny TikTok.
Yeah.
you guys are silly. But yeah, I think right now in the stage of my life, I'm just spending a lot of time by myself. So I still do deal with people. Like I still do come across people who are toxic, but in terms of like toxic relationships, I think it's been like a while for me. Like I can pinpoint mine.
No, yeah, but that's not you. Obviously, once you've had one toxic relationship, it's not to say like you're gonna keep having these toxic relationships. However, like what you took from your toxic relationship, like I know that for me personally, like I think we've all at least encountered someone that was toxic. We've had a previous relationship at some point that was toxic, and in that toxicity, taught us something about ourselves.
That's true.
And personally for me, like I know when I was dating the person I was dating, because I was in a narcissistic abusive relationship. So I had someone that was like, you know, my sisters felt it. They didn't like it. But my mom, because my mom was like, let's get this bread. She was more like, oh, he's made you calm. Right? And so I'm thinking, oh, okay, cool. He must be a good person. No, y'all, he was terrible.
You're like, actually, he's just taken away my whole sense of self.
Yeah. And you thought cognitive dissonance was a thing back then?
Yeah.
It was definitely like, I didn't know. I was like, yeah, I'm just here.
Do you think that the person is toxic, or do you think the relationship is toxic?
I think that there's attributes of the person that come, like, we all have our own identities, right? Well, we would like to. We're all raised, because, like, we grew up in the same house, but we have different identities because we just don't have the same.
We went to college.
We have different experiences, but we grew up in the same house. So that's to say, like, our relationships are not going to be the same, even though we grew up in the same environment. So I think that the attributes of a person are what make the relationship toxic, because it doesn't always start off toxic. Like, we didn't start off fisticuffs. You know what I mean? I just felt like relationships don't start off that way, and I feel like if a person, like, people do have a tendency of, I think certain people bring out the worst in people.
Yeah.
I agree with your question. I feel like in my instance, a lot of my toxic relationships was the relationship itself. I don't think, like, because I think that in those relationships people could easily say I was the toxic one.
Yeah.
So I think that it definitely was the relationship itself, because I'm just thinking of, like, once I was made, like, insecure in a relationship, I do think that I might have become a little bit of the one who was toxic, because now I've got this, like, extra hold where I'm like, I want to hang out all the time, and if we're not hanging out, what are you doing behind my back?
Yeah.
So and that is toxic. So I feel like I was triggered in my relationship from someone's toxicity, and then I became a toxic person, and then the relationship just became toxic overall.
Yeah. It's like what we were talking about earlier, when it's just like, don't let your toxicity become my toxicity. Like, I don't want everyone goes through challenges, but, like, sometimes you allow people will allow their trauma to inform how they deal with, like, well, I was traumatized. Someone, you know, cheated on me in a previous relationship, so now I need to know where you are at all times. Yeah. It's like, actually, that's not healthy.
I don't want to know where you are, and that's why I'm not in a relationship. Because I'm like, listen, I can't handle it. So I'm just not.
Well, like, different people are, you know, I think that what I have found personally is that if my relationship is one of trust and I don't feel, like, unnecessarily triggered, then I really don't care where you are, because I trust that you're going to be, you know, like, I have my own thing. Like, you know, I don't have time to be following up and, you know,
what are you doing?
Where's your location?
Yeah.
Like, no, I mean, you know, are you consistent with me? Are you a consistent person in my life? Are you someone who brings calm and not anxiety? And if you are, then, you know, live your life.
Yeah.
But I think I have definitely had relationships where I'm like, well, where are you? You know, like, well, what are you doing? That was because that person my body was reacting to things that my mind hadn't caught up with yet. So my body, like, was just like, something's wrong, something's off. And because I didn't have the words for it, then I just allowed myself to kind of spiral, as opposed to being like, actually, no, this isn't, I don't like the way I feel. And you might not be doing anything wrong. But the fact that this relationship is bringing me to a place where I feel like I'm not an anxious person and I'm feeling anxious. This is just not it's not a healthy space for me.
Yeah.
And you might not be doing anything, but you're bringing something out of me. Something is coming out of me that I don't like, and it's not, you know, in alignment with my highest self. And so, you know, it's just not a good fit.
So, yeah, it's just not going to work out. I think that's so true. Just to touch on what you said earlier about, like, I used to make excuses for people. So, like, if they had a trauma in their life, I would make excuses for that trauma as to why they were such a, like, not nice person to me.
Not what you were going to say.
I wasn't. But I was like, let me bring it in. But, yeah, I would make excuses, and I feel like I allowed them to inflict, like, trauma on me, because I'm like, well, they've been through so much in their life.
Yeah.
And I just think that's such an important thing of, like, just because you've been through trauma does not mean you get to traumatize me.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. 1,000%. You keep that over there. Or take it to get help. You know, I'm supportive of you getting help if that's what you need. But that support might not come, you know, in the role as a girlfriend. Like, I can support you as a friend.
Right.
While you get the help that you need. But I also have to put your your face mask on first, or your
the
oxygen mask on first.
Yeah.
Before you say
I'm over here
things.
like, save the kids.
I mean, you could do that.
No,
But,
but that's the like Libra, because Libras are like that. We have that stereotype of like, I can fix you.
yeah.
I don't want to fix you.
Yeah.
You can stay over there. We've already done
Not a
one.
mechanic.
We're not. I can't. I'm not. Lied on the resume. I'm gonna let you know that I lied on the resume. I'm gonna let you know I don't know how to do this job.
I am not qualified. I am not qualified for this.
So, what? Oh, in terms of like, I guess, because I know like once you only have one. I feel like you only have one. I only tried to only have one. What did you learn about yourself?
That I could be toxic too. That like I have like a lot of stuff that like I had to pinpoint what it was that I was feeling. It taught me how to take control of my own emotion and not let other people control my emotion and not let other people have such a like influence over my life.
Yeah.
Same. I will tell you, because it's like now, if someone, it's like really, really weird. It's like almost like an outer body experience, because before, like somebody, like, I mean, somebody could do something and it would get me in my emotions so quick. Y'all know, I was like super like,
like
reactive. And now like somebody could say something, like especially relationship wise, they could like do something. Like I was just talking to a guy, he literally pursued me. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, that's great. No, listen, he pursues me, right? I'm like, that's great, cool. I'm in this. And like Monday night, right? He is all about me. By Friday evening, he is like non-existent.
Yeah.
And I'm like, normally I would be stewing. I'd be like going crazy.
Yeah.
But all I did was like I addressed it and I'm like, hey, like, listen, if you are not interested, it is best that you let someone else know. So, and he's like, well, I just need space. Fine, take your space. Space is always good for mental clarity because it'll help you understand where you are. However, please do not use space as a way to have me standing here waiting around for somebody that is not coming back.
Right.
Like, just say
Because
it with
you're
your
too
chest.
afraid to
'Cause you're
actually be honest.
To be honest.
Yeah.
Just say what it is, because that in itself is a toxic thing to do to someone else.
Yeah.
You are allowing me to stay in a place knowing that you have no intention of coming back to the area.
Yeah.
So you want me to stand around like a lovesick puppy.
Yeah. I think it's Brene Brown who talks about the fact that clarity is kind.
It is.
Right? Like sometimes people will think, well, being vague is, I don't know, I'll be back because I don't know my feelings. But it's like, actually just be clear. Like, I'm not really into this right now, but I think that you're cool. And, maybe we go do your thing. And maybe if, things align in the future, we can revisit this.
Yeah.
But like some people are so afraid and they're thinking it's like you have to be cruel to be kind, right? Some people think that, if I say something,
Like confrontation is
automatically
automatically a negative.
And that's
No,
crazy to
it's
me.
Confrontation is actually
It's like good.
necessary.
It's like
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a part
like
of life.
it is so necessary. And like, just off of the little incident that happened over the weekend, I think that the confrontation, like for us, it's like funny to me because like you were saying, so many people do not think confrontation is healthy, but they don't understand that every time that you don't speak up for something that upsets you, that is a trauma response. Not only that, but you are hurting yourself more than you're hurting the other person, because you're silencing a piece of you because you out of fear that nobody is going to like what you have to say.
Yeah.
And I think that is absolute asinine to think
some people's families treat them that way, and that's why that thinking didn't come from anywhere. Not
Right.
that it's healthy in relationships, but I feel like for a lot of people, they were told that their opinions didn't matter when they were little.
Ooh, like a snake.
Okay. No, but they used to get really mad at me because I was afraid of confrontation.
Yeah.
But I never had to do it because I had no personality.
And I'd be
You know
doing
what I
it for
mean?
you because I'm like, we're not doing
It was
this.
just suppressed.
It was deeply. No, but
Speaking from the heart. Be Fletcher.
I get mad at my friends too. Like my one friend, she was going through some stuff, and I just was like, "Girl, if you don't speak up, I'm gonna box you." Because at this point, like, and I bet I sound like your therapist. But I don't mean it in like a bad way. It's just like, girl, like, why are you
Everyone's not built like that.
But it's
though.
just built different. I don't know. It's just something about me. But no, I know what it is. I think why I'm so reactionary is that little girl that was like bullied and picked on, that did it for 2 years, did not speak up.
Yeah.
And like it's almost kind of like hypervigilance for not speaking up those 2 years.
Yeah.
It was like, y'all, I did not speak up. I didn't speak up for myself because out of fear, I want everyone to like me back then. And I think once I got past the fact, like, these motherfuckers aren't gonna like me regardless, no matter what I do. So you know what? Fuck y'all. I'm gonna say what I gotta say. Because at the end of the day, you're never gonna like me.
Yeah.
So why am I gonna hurt myself? Because it already hurts that you're coming at me this way and I'm sitting here taking it because I really want to go upside your head. But it hurts. It's not doing me any justice, not saying anything. And I feel like when I say something, you know not to cross me.
Right.
You know not to come over here. Have you seen that meme? Don't come in here with that bullshit.
Here I am.
No, you know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like when you let it be known, like, people know your boundaries and they know what threshold you hold.
Yeah.
It's because, like, one of the girls, the same friend, she was like, I don't think I've ever experienced the confrontations that you've experienced. And I said, do you ever stand up for yourself? She goes, no. Well, you're not going to. You don't tell people that how they make you feel.
Right.
You just hold resentment and then expect them to read your mind, and that's not okay.
Right. Yeah.
And that in turn creates toxic patterns.
Right. So I agree, and I also think that understanding that people are wired differently. So I don't typically have the same confrontations, but it's not that I don't speak up for myself. Mm-hmm. I speak up for myself in a different way, right? And I think that if you're someone who's really like overt with the way that you stand up for yourself, sometimes it's easy to think that someone who is more reserved in the way they stand up for themselves is just kind of letting people walk all over them. And I don't think that I let people walk. I think the people who walked all over me have been people who have serious boundary issues. Yeah. And it really wouldn't have mattered if I yelled or screamed or whatever. They would have just done what they did because that's who they are.
You have a way, but the thing about it is that your way of standing over people, you have a way of getting people to realize that they have done something either offensive. Because, like, the way you ask, well, do you think this is a good idea? It's like the way you ask it back, it's like, that was shade, but no, I don't think it was a good idea, so I won't do it again.
But because I didn't ask you in an aggressive way. No. It's just like, okay, what I'm going to do right now is just hold this mirror up. And
clown.
And you tell me what you see.
Yeah.
You know, like, and so I just think it's a different way. To go back, to the question about, like, what I learned from, like, toxic situations that I've been in, I think that my biggest thing my biggest takeaway is, like, not to deny my body's reaction to situations, because I think that's what I would do oftentimes. I would, like, feel off, but then I would, like, silence myself, like, oh, it's nothing. I would make excuses for people. I would because I
no, I'm just, like, picturing Kermit the Frog. It's like, finish them.
That's you.
Well, no, you were like it's like, am I feeling anxious? And then your person's like, no, girl, it's fine.
No, but literally, I'd be like, because I try to come from compassion with all people, I think I would always make it somehow something that I did. Like, oh, okay, well, maybe if I, responded differently, and I would, like, twist myself into a literal pretzel trying to figure out how I could change things or change the way I was doing something so that someone else would change their behavior. And the biggest thing for me is realizing that I may be doing something that's upsetting you, but if the way that you're responding it's not in a way that's building a relationship, if it's actually destructive, then I get to decide that I don't want to be a part of that. Yeah. And it was a big shift for me. There was, like, I had this one big conflict, and not one big conflict, but there was a moment of conflict. You guys were on the phone, that's all we'll say about that. But, like, you guys were there, and I just remember in the moment, like, I was trying to get someone to understand, and they just weren't going to understand. And at that moment, it was just like, there's really nothing I could say. I could be in tears, I could be yelling, I could be quiet. Yeah. And I'm like, actually, I want to do the thing that's true to me. And for me, let me just get to a better place. Let me just remove myself from the situation, and I'm going to allow you to sit here and you can figure out what just happened. But you can argue. I'm not going to argue with you.
You'll never get the chance to treat me
because I know how I brought this cake in here.
You'll never get the chance to treat me like a piece of shit again.
This is your grandma.
It really is his grandma on the phone.
You will never get the chance to treat me like I'm a piece of shit again.
That's the biggest thing I've learned. It's just to like trust my own intuition, to stand in the truth of what I'm experiencing, and not try to make excuses for why. Well, I know that they're a kind person, so they wouldn't do this. It's like, okay, well maybe they are, but something's just happened. So allow that to be what it is and adjust accordingly, because I always want to be true to who I am. I don't want to allow negative situations to pull me outside of myself.
I think that's like a mouthful, because it's like, yeah.
What did you learn?
What did I learn? Mm-hmm. The one thing I've learned about myself is I used to be, like I said, I was reactionary. And for me, I had the I had the count to 10 in my head.
Does that work?
Yes.
It does.
And the walk away.
Okay. It does.
So sometimes, or like you remember, I had the old boss who would like scream in my face.
Yeah.
Girl, and you know me. Yeah. Like, what? The fact that you're like, y'all, you still have your job? You sure do. Because in my head, I counted to 10.
Yeah.
And then if she was still going, I would excuse myself to take a breather, because it's like, in that moment, if I see red, it's not going to be good for anybody.
Yeah.
So I just need to abort mission. Because of how my last relationship was, because of how toxic it got, you know, the therapist that I was going to was like, girl, I remember calling you and you're like, girl, you cannot do that. And I'm like, well, and like, you know, I felt shameful, but then afterwards I was like, okay, yeah, so I've got to come up with a different way. Like, I should not allow somebody to push me to a point that I feel that I have to attack them.
Yeah.
And if I feel that I have to attack them, I express that I probably shouldn't be in the room with them.
No, 100%.
So now I'm like, okay, if I feel myself getting to that point,
It's just the word attack.
attack. I remove myself. I have to, because it's not necessarily for your safety. It's for my own, because I don't trust myself. So
it's for everybody.
Yeah, it's for everyone.
I think I said something to somebody yesterday along the lines of like telling people no, or sometimes saying no is like healthy for everybody.
Yeah.
Because it's like, because somebody was like, I feel bad that I'm not going out with Beth. Do you think she's upset? And I was like, no. And she was like, I feel like I'm just gonna be a bump on the log. I'm like, yeah. Sometimes just being like, no, it's good, because why? Like, you wouldn't want somebody sitting there like bringing your energy down. And then if you don't want to be there, if you don't want to be there around like, you know, energies that you don't want to be around,
it's just
then
not
it's
my
just
vibe,
if it's not your vibe, then it's just
your
best.
B-Bay.
Then it's just best to say no, because then it like, you're affected because you don't want to be there, and then Beth's affected because she's like, what's wrong with Samantha? You know, so
shit, is Beth like, what's wrong with Samantha? Or is Beth like, it's lit, let's party?
Elizabeth,
probably the
my
latter.
sister.
Yeah, you're right.
She'd be like,
what's wrong?
What's wrong?
Who did something? Who said something to you?
Somebody said something to you. Which one was it? Did you say something to my sister? And it's like,
and did, and sure will act like that. You know, and I feel like I think I do kind of teeter back onto what Corey said about like taking things and like becoming the toxic person. Like, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm pretty damn good in a relationship to people. I think I have more so toxic traits now than I did before, because I'm quick to like leave people. Like, now when somebody does something to me, it's a quick block. And I don't think that that's healthy. I think it's like, it is healthy to hold a boundary, but like, it's not fair to the other person. And I know it's not fair to the other person, because if it was me at that receiving end, I would feel some type of way that somebody just could not express themselves
or work it out.
But it's like, for me, because when I care, I feel like, I think what happened in my last relationship has made it where now it is really hard for me to be vulnerable with somebody else.
Yeah.
And even just like, you know, in the talking stage.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, you did something I don't like, block. And I'm trying not to be
down, blocking Yana.
Yeah, bust it down. I want to see you blocked down. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's crazy, because like everyone's like, well, what you guys used to ask me all the time, like, so how are things with you? And like, I'm like, what guy? And it's not on no like disrespect. I really would just
it's on disrespect.
No, it was potent. It would be on some like literal, you would ask me and it would just be out of sight, out of mind. I chuck them out of my mind, because like, I just feel like the person that's meant for me is not going to upset me in a way that is going to trigger a trauma response.
Yeah.
I agree, but I also would push back a little bit that sometimes like you have to like, it depends on the trauma response.
Right.
So I'll say that, right? But sometimes, like, discomfort is a part of growth, right? And so...
You can't be comfortable all the time.
Yeah, you can't be uncomfortable all the time, but you shouldn't also just not be comfortable all the time. And when situations arise where you're like, that brings up discomfort, it just push it away because it's uncomfortable. So, you know, it's obviously it's not the people that you're probably talking about, you probably don't need to have them in your life. So I'm not going to push back on that. Just saying. Like, when you get to a place and you're dealing with a quality person, there are going to be times where you're triggered. There are times where I'm triggered, where I'm like, oh, I thought I was healed, and now that I'm in a relationship, there are aspects of my heart that are becoming more accessible to that person, and those are areas that I wouldn't necessarily deal with on my own, but because I'm in a relationship, I'm like, oh wait, like, actually that bothers me. Let me sit with myself and figure out why I'm bothered. And it's helpful when you're in a healthy relationship when you have someone who's actually constantly trying to work with you, trying to understand where you're coming from, and can hold space for you to be upset. Like, okay, well, you're upset, and I'm going to sit here and wait for you to you know, work through whatever you're working through.
And I think that that's true. But in my experience, I've dealt with people that, for me, it's like in the very beginning, we're not even like a couple yet. Fair. And it's like, we haven't even made it to committed. Yeah. And you're already bringing a trauma response. Yeah. You gotta go. Because I'll bust you upside your head, and I really won't feel bad about it. Right. So
that's a problem.
And that's a problem. You know what I mean? And
we don't get there. We're just going
to end it now because I've got to walk away from you and I don't care how much I like you. Yeah. It's just you're doing something that I can see potentially being something that might forego the process that the progress that I've made. It derailed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the early stages, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, again, I trust
my train is on the track. We are headed to the Eli train station. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's just like something that I, wanted to talk about in terms of like those relationships, because I know that it's not just relationships. You could have a toxic friendship. You could have a toxic, I've dealt with toxic workplaces. Yeah. There's toxicity everywhere, okay?
Yeah. Well, anywhere there's people.
There's toxicity.
In nature, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I want to say that, because for me, like, my toxicity didn't show up as, like, something negative. Uh-huh. Like, it showed up as, like, extra love. That's also a trauma response of, like, holding on tighter. Because mine wasn't necessarily, like, I'm going to cut you off and, like... Mine was like, mine was like, I'm gonna love you more.
Oh, we all have the different ones.
Well, I've learned to not be as anxiously attached. I've learned to just be like, I let things be what they are. Yeah. And also, I'm not in a relationship, so that's why I'm saying this. Like, if I was in a relationship, it'd probably look a little different. But like, in terms of my friendships, I just let things be what they are. Yeah. Because you can still strangle someone. You know what I mean? Like, even if you're holding tighter, you could strangle someone. So I feel like toxicity doesn't only look one way. It doesn't only look like,
It's not always like yelling or like,
right.
No, it's like digs and like withholding information.
Right. Oh no, that's not me. I'm like, sometimes I want to know everything.
Here's everything.
Yeah, and that's
toxic. A little bit too much.
Yeah, that's still too much.
Well, and that's why I feel like in certain regards, like, I think that in your struggle with some of your friendships that at least I've heard you talk to me about is just like the fact that you're overly giving. They think that it's not genuine because they would not overly give to you. So why the hell is this girl overly giving to me? Yeah. Because it's a setup, and that's probably where they're kind of like me, where I'm like avoidant. I feel like you're now starting to become secure. You're securely attached in your friendships. Yeah. I've gotten avoidant attachment with my friends but that's just because how many friends in my past growing up did a lot of stuff that was like, what?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the hardest things to do in friendship is like shift from any relationship is to shift from unhealthy to health. And I think definitely for me, when I would say on aggregate, I am securely attached, and I look for people who are
also securely attached.
Well, they might have some, I have some, anxiety. They might have some anxiety, but together we don't create anxiety for one another. Yeah. Right? And so I think that I can think back to some friendships when I was younger, like high school and like early college, where it definitely was this just unhealthy friendship, and trying to like, because I don't like to lose friends. Like, I'm like, if I get to the place, the point of calling you a friend, then I would like to keep the friendship forever. And so I would have people in my life where I'm like, look, you know, I know that I haven't been a perfect friend to you. You haven't been a perfect friend to me. Like, let's talk about it. And to see, like, sometimes people are going to just not be able to they're not going to be able to rise to that occasion, right? Like, or they're not going to want to. You know, not everybody wants to salvage everything. And so I think part of that understanding is, like, sometimes, you know, you have to let people be where they want to be, you know? But in doing that, you kind of create space for others. Like, you know, if you only got, you know, 6 slots, you only got 4 seats in your car.
Yeah.
You know, so why, if there's someone who doesn't want to be there, why keep them in the spot? Right. You know, like,
they're not providing snacks. They're not paying for gas.
They're not contributing to gas.
Yeah.
Girl, they're playing the music. Let me just like.
They're not even playing the music.
They're not
playing music people want to hear.
Yeah.
Everyone in the car is like, could we play this? And they're like, I don't even want to hear this, but nah.
Yeah.
We gonna listen to this.
Exactly. And so sometimes I think it's best. It's like, all right, look. It's not always a bad thing to realize that your friendship is no longer, you know, compatible with all. Sometimes things have to come to an end.
Yeah.
And so,
and it's no.
Welcome to Do Laws Such a Perfect.
No.
Stream
no,
Corinne Grace
no.
on all platforms.
This episode is brought to you by No Hard Feelings.
By
Corinne Grace. Streaming on
everywhere.
all streaming platforms.
All digital streaming platforms.
Thank you.
No, yeah.
I just want to say something that I learned coming out of one of my toxic relationships, and what I bring into my relationships now is something that you said, like, people, in a relationship I'm in, I'm like, I don't need you to need me. I don't need you to need to be here, because when you start needing to be here, no, literally, when you feel like you need to be here, you won't put in an effort. You might not even want to be here, but you think you have to stay out of obligation. I want you to want to be here.
Yeah,
I want you to bring a newness and a freshness every time you see me.
Yeah.
But I think, like, with bringing that into all my relationships, I also have to create a space for people to, like, want and need me, and not be like, I want you to want me all the time, but I'm here all the time. So I'm not going to even give you time to want me, because I'm just going to be here.
Yeah.
I think that's I don't know. I feel like for me, when I was in college, I was still to this day, I have a friend. And it was really funny. Y'all, I'm not even trying to be funny. She invited me to her, what's it called? Like a baby shower where they, like, do the gifts and the games and all that. Mm-hmm. It was virtual because it was during COVID. And the crazy thing about it is, I feel like I mesh better with people that are avoidantly attached, because it's like, I know that they care about me, but, like, we do not talk to each other, and it's
trauma.
crazy. Yeah, no,
that's trauma, sis.
Yeah, it might be. But listen, so, like, she's definitely securely attached. I'm definitely avoidant attached, because she's done everything in the years of us being friends. From the day that I first met this girl, she has always just been there for me, no matter, just consistent, no matter what, never switched up. I don't talk to her for years. She's always there.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was crazy that I think made her realize the kind of friend that I am was, like, at her baby shower, she had all these people that were around her. They know her, right? We're playing the games. They're asking questions. Every single one. They're like, what year did he and I meet? And I'm like, 2014. They're like, what? She's like, when's my birthday? December 11th. And, like, I haven't talked to the girl and since I moved, so 4 years, haven't talked to her. These people are around her and they were getting stuff wrong. And I'm like, we don't talk.
Yeah.
Like, we do not see each other.
Because you have a heart deep down inside.
It's not even deep. She don't even gotta dig deep for it.
She doesn't.
She just be like, here is a wall and a chain
and some
and
spikes.
a gate and
and a moat and there's alligators.
It's like, it's sitting right there.
You can literally
gotta
see it.
get through stuff to get to it.
Like, I see it.
If you survive the question of alligators and your bacteria,
Your challenge,
bacteria,
should you choose to accept?
No, it's just funny because, like, on the horizon, you're like, oh wow, like, I don't understand why everybody says this is so hard. It's like right there, like,
and then you like,
then you're like, flesh eating bacteria, flesh eating alligators.
Because, like, people, no, I really think that that's how people see me. Because, like, when they first meet me, they're like, wow, she's so open. It's like,
I'm But I think
Am
that's, I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
I think it was probably really like jarring for your friends, like when we surprised you on your birthday.
Yeah.
When you like teared up, they're like,
What the hell?
"What?"
If you're gonna cry.
Yeah.
If seeing someone get emotional it makes your heart untin Grinch, then that's fine. Like, allow that.
Because I think that's because I'm seen as more of the like
aggressor, which is annoying to me, but whatever.
Yeah, it is annoying to me too, but I'm okay with taking that title because, baby, when y'all need somebody to say something, is this shit not getting handled? Who gonna say something? Because it ain't gonna be you. It's gonna be me. Anyways, but some people I have been selective about speaking up for because I'm like, I'm gonna let you sit in that, sis. Because whenever it's me, you ain't got nothing to say. But I will say some people are learning because the one thing that happened and that one person that I never expected to say anything, the fact that they said something, I was like, dang,
Yeah.
maybe it's rubbing off.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because this is all I've ever wanted. I just want you guys, like, you saying something is not going to create issues.
Mm-hmm.
You just, like, kindly putting someone in a place of, like, hey, like, think about that.
Yeah.
What do you think you've learned from seeing other people go through toxic situations, relationships, and work situations?
I think that what I've learned is
Not a damn
nothing.
thing.
Not a damn thing. No.
Not a damn thing. I can't lie.
No. I cannot lie. No. I have learned.
I would say not a damn.
I've learned something, but the stuff that I learned is just like, I think I learned grace from other people, watching other people handle situations, because where they show grace to certain people, it's like, girl, I would have dragged them across the floor already.
Yeah.
And they're like, just give me a second. I remember in high school, my friend Lexi, she actually got upset with me because something had happened and I had stood up for her. She's like, I never asked you to do that. And it was like, at that point, it was like, I got so used to fighting Corey's battles all the time. So to fight someone else's battle and them not actually, like, I'm sitting here like, yeah. And it's not even that she didn't mean to appreciate it. It's just like she didn't ask me to open my mouth.
Yeah.
And
she might have another way to handle it.
Another way to handle it. And in her mind, she thought I was making this situation worse.
Because she doesn't want to be confrontational.
Exactly, because she doesn't handle the confrontation the exact same way. It actually gives her anxiety when I would do stuff like that, and then it would put all the attention on her because they're like looking at her as like, what are you about to do? What are you going to do about that she's done, so that she's made it this big? And it's like, you know what? I had to learn that, okay, I've got to let this person have grace with whatever the situation is. And when they say, attack, Kika, that's when I go, like a pit bull.
I'm glad,
but a locked jaw.
Sometimes you be making me anxious, like, that's okay, I'll handle it for you. Like, please no. Don't do it.
And then she wonders why. She's like, why didn't you tell me? I'm like,
because you're crazy.
Because I love you.
I want to go back to what you were saying about like how you hadn't spent that much time with your friend, but like everybody like spent more time and like knew. I think for me that was something that was really hard when I was like getting rid of friends, and like friends that I had for a long time.
My friends that last year are gone.
But you know that I still see them,
and they stink like shit.
Remix.
You never did that.
I didn't know you had Weezy on the
remix. Lil Keezy. No, but yeah, no, that was something that was really, because I would always call you and be like, we don't spend that much time together, and you would always be like, I don't think it's about like the time you spend together. I think it's about how they make you feel when you're spending the time together.
Yeah,
which I think is so important, because I would see my friends a lot. Like, I would see them all the time, and I would often conflate with seeing my friends all the time with them being good friends.
Yeah.
And that honestly wasn't the case.
Not at all.
No, not at all. And I would come home and, like, know that I didn't want to see those people, but, like, didn't want to, like, I didn't want to be by myself, like, spend time by myself. So I would be like, I'm just going to go hang out with them. Knowing that when I got home, I was going to feel like crap after I hung out with them.
And you're going to call me and tell me that you felt like crap. And I was going to be like, I will literally pay you not to see them.
That was like something that was really hard for me, because I thought, like, I mean, yeah, I would feel crummy every single time I was finishing hanging out with these people. But I would still hang out with them because I was like, well,
it's something to do.
It's like they were here. They were like, they filled a void.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, they filled a void.
Like, is it like a love addiction almost, where you're like,
I do have yes. I'm like, I willingly give out love to anybody. Yeah. I'm like the first to like to be like, I love you.
Yeah.
Because I do. Because I just want to give all the love to people.
I just want to make a cake.
What are you doing?
Did Debbie Ryan? Because that isn't.
Can't
relate.
Can't relate.
But that's also unhealthy to be like, and that's something that I learned in therapy is to not, because in my mind, I'm like, everybody is worthy of love, so why not give everybody love?
Yeah, well, I think that's the hard thing, like, as a Christian, right? Because you're like, God made you.
Yeah.
You know, like, you have inherent value because God made you. And so I want to be able to, like, give you love because, like, I love God and God made you. And so, but then realizing that, like, you know, I'm not Jesus. And, like, I'm not, like, Jesus already died on the cross, so I don't have to, you know? And so
I think it was a part of my self-love journey because a lot of the, like, literature that I was reading in my self-love journey was like, I am worthy of love because I exist.
Yeah.
And so that was a part of me learning to love myself because I would, in my old toxic relationships, feel like I had to do something for people to love me. And so I think a part of my self-love journey was like knowing that I actually didn't have to do anything for people to love me. And so I think I brought that in my own self-love and how I loved people. Because I do think in the ways that you love yourself is a lot of the ways that you love others.
Yeah.
And so, and I do shower myself with gifts. Like that was a big part of my self-love journey. The first Christmas that I like, you know, had the euphoria where I learned to love myself. I bought myself so many gifts.
So
it was
many
like
gifts.
2 Corinne from Corinne.
And wrapped them, y'all. I would never forget that. I would never
And put them
forget
under the Christmas tree.
She sure did.
I did.
And opened them like she got that. Each one was hella surprised. But you know you got yourself. You gave this. You're like, oh my God, thanks for meeting me. Love it.
But no, I had so much love to give, and I was just like, why don't you just give it to yourself?
Yeah.
And that was like revolutionary for me. I'm not gonna lie. That was a turning point in my life where I was like, I could just give it to myself.
Yeah, but and I think that's why people think that, like, mainly me, because okay, so y'all know me. In most of my life, I've always been like, oh, friends. Like, I was always at a friend's house. I was never home, right? And then the older I got, I was just kind of like, oh, these people are shitty. Kind of hate them. Like, I just would rather, in the love I'm giving to these people, I'm gonna give it to myself. So, like,
did you realize that before Dad or after Dad?
No. Dad, that stuff when we were little was about you guys, like me fighting Corinne.
Okay.
The stuff when I got older, Dad never really talked to me.
Should put that in the last episode.
The stuff that Dad never really talked to me about, like my friendships and stuff. But like my friendships came from.
Dad said I don't care about your friends.
We weren't allowed.
He
to
said,
have
why do you
friends.
need to have sleepover?
Yeah,
You have a bed right here.
but low key though, high key.
He's not lying. He's not
Yeah.
wrong.
Why?
No, so like literally for me when I got older,
You're coming home to sleep.
I
Sorry.
started having situations where I was just kind of like, all right, well, I don't really necessarily like how this person makes me feel. And like, I started realizing like I would invite people to do things that I wanted to do and they would never reciprocate. Mm-hmm. But like when because I'm the friend that like, no matter who you are, if you were like, Beth, I want to go to Mar-a-Lago, so I can't even say it, tomorrow. I don't even know how I don't even have the funds, but I'm about to sell some stuff to make sure I'm there because obviously you wouldn't have invited me if you didn't care and you didn't want me to be there. So I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure I'm there. But I realized people don't do the same for me. They don't hold the same space for me. So, because I could be like, hey, you want to go next year? And they're like, you know what? I don't know because I got a dog and I need to feed it. And I'm like, I said next year, I need to wash my toes and like there's a lot of lint in my belly button and I don't know if I can go. So I just get like hit with a lot of excuses rather than people like being like, you know what? You said we're going. Already had the ticket.
Yeah.
It's bought.
Yeah.
Let's get it. You know, so... But the older I got, I just kind of got to a point where I was just like, how Corey was like poured into myself. Now, if you look at my Instagram, there was somebody that I was talking to, and they were talking about how girls that only post themselves and no one else on their Instagram was annoying. And I'm like, but who's the only person who's been holding me down, me or you? Why would I post you? And if in a year's time or in a month's time, you're not somebody that's solid. I only have people on my page that are solid, that I've been around, that I know are not going anywhere. Because in my past, I look at it as this way. That is like basically what tells you about who's in my life. Because as soon as you go on my page, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And what I've experienced is the people that I'm promoting you on my page, but we're not friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the only person I know that's had my back is me.
Yeah, I don't care what people do on their Instagram, but yeah, I think that everything that we said is basically like pretty much like spot on from like how we were before and how we are after. And I think everything is a journey and everything is about learning.
Yeah.
And I think if you get out of a toxic relationship and you continue to be toxic, like if you get out of a toxic relationship and learn absolutely nothing from that, I think then
you
that
might be the toxic person.
Yeah, I think that might make you a toxic person, but we all have something that we can learn from, even if we aren't the aggressor in the situation.
Yeah.
We all have something that we can learn that we can bring into the next chapter of our life, because nobody wants to continuously repeat the stuff that they're doing.
Yeah.
So I think that even if you aren't like the one who's blatantly doing the bad stuff, like in my relationships, I wasn't, in my opinion, doing things that will hurt people, but like I also don't know, like I could have been doing, like maybe holding on really tight was something that was hurting them, and to me that seemed like love, so they were doing kind of what they could to wiggle out of the hold that I had, and that looked like hurting me in the worst ways possible.
No, for sure, because my ex definitely said things like me, and it's never shaking me because I think that's just my personality, but he said things like, you're always flying off the handle, I don't know what you're gonna say, I don't know, but it's like, you're not knowing what I'm going to say, because like people would say something disrespectful when we were out and I'd call them out. I'm sorry, you're expecting me to be the kind of woman that like stands behind you and doesn't address what is being said. It's not funny, and it needs to be called out. Not every situation needs to be called out. There's times where older family members made comments and I didn't say anything then. But if it was somebody that was our age, where it's not flying.
Yeah.
So it's not about flying off the handle. It's about letting people know a boundary and a line that they will not cross while you're in the room.
Yeah.
Right.
Or ever.
I agree. I think the other thing is like realizing, I was looking up the quote, like you remain the hero of your own story even when you become the villain of someone else's story. So I think even if you have been the toxic person, right? Because if you live long enough, you're going to be the villain in somebody's story. Realizing that you should have grace with yourself as well. Like, so understanding that it's never too late to get help. Go to you need therapy, it's never too late to get help. And if you are the person, because I think that's the other thing, right? I think sometimes people feel so much shame from being toxic that they just stay that way,
yeah.
right? And
just this is who I am.
This is just who I am,
yeah.
right? And it's like, okay, well, you could grow. Yeah, you can refine yourself a little bit. You can, take some time and figure out how to make, because you're helping yourself, right? You're making your future relationships deeper, the connections better, or at least preparing yourself to have deeper connections with that when you actually get help. And you shouldn't feel held captive to your decisions of the past. You can always move forward. Used to be, But you should also hold space for the fact that you may have hurt someone.
Right. Right. Because I think about that a lot. Like, people in my past who have been like racist to me, like maybe you might not be that today.
Yeah.
But the last time I interacted with you, this is how you made me feel, and you don't get to erase that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you have grown up, and I'm glad that you have changed. But a part of growing up, to me at least, is acknowledging
the wrongs that you've done.
You weren't always a great person.
I literally just said this. You guys have to understand that when I'm like, because one thing that I can't stand is when somebody's like, oh, you always think you're right. I don't always think I'm right, but when I'm right, I know that I'm right. And when I'm wrong, I have no problem admitting that I'm wrong. And that's the difference between you and I. You're upset that I know that I'm holding my truth because I know what the hell happened. And because for you would be easily swayed into believing whatever. But I'm not easily swayed, because if I am right about something, I know that for a fact that this happened, and I'm not going to move on that. However, if you're not going to bully me out of it.
Yeah.
However, because somebody was like, well, why don't you just be the bigger person and apologize? I'm tired of being the bigger person. I'm always the bigger person.
But it's like not even about being the bigger person. Like, if you are like standing steadfast in your truth, and you're like, no, this is actually not how the cake came in. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No, but it is like, it is a good example, because it was like, I really was like, no, I know what I saw.
But that is almost evident in how people are with like your everyday life, because in that moment, you're like, I know what I saw. This is me standing true in what I'm not going to sway on.
Right.
No. And then the girl's like, well, no, that's how you brought it in. Well, I didn't see it.
Even though I didn't see it. But the thing is, but I think sometimes people think, if I can make you feel uncomfortable enough,
you won't argue with
me.
And nothing will change, and you'll accept it.
Yeah.
And
I won't have to accept responsibility for what I do.
And that's where I think is a toxic thing for people, and I think people need to recognize that in people that they may interact with and in themselves, because like for you to make somebody else feel awkward because you can't say sorry, that is not okay. You should be able, and at some point in your life, I hate saying sorry, but if I'm wrong, I will apologize, because I just think that like, what does it do for me to withhold that from you?
Yeah.
I didn't set out in my life to upset other people. So when you bring something to my attention, like you did this to hurt me, I'm like, if I don't remember, I'm like, okay, well, I don't remember that, but I do apologize, because you know, I can accept accountability. Yeah. It's just funny because I deal with people, you know, in my everyday from a 9 to 5, and they make comments like, oh, one thing I've learned is projection is always nearby. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is that, like, I never tell people how they are, but people love telling me how I am. And I think that is how they perceive me. And it's like, that is projection. Yeah. Because the fact that, like, I don't ever sit here and take tallies of everything you say and do, that to me tells me all you do is sit around waiting for the moment to pounce on my character. Yeah. And I find that obsessive and weird. Yeah. And toxic. Because I'm not like, oh, you know, they're like, somebody said something like, you need to take accountability. I'm like the number one person to take accountability when something is wrong. I think that might have been something that you feel internally that you don't do with yourself. Yeah. But I didn't tell them that, and I just kind of was like, have you ever heard of Matt Kama? You should listen to him. And I walked away. He's a person that tells people about themselves. And like,
I love being dragged. Like,
me too.
Almost a little bit.
It's sickening.
But I like,
yeah, I love it too.
I like being dragged in a like productive way. Yeah. Like, I like when someone's like, you know, you might be doing X, Y, and Z because you feel this, that, and that. And I'm like,
ooh, tell me more.
That's why she likes talking to me every day.
That. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me drag
so it really does drag me. I'm like,
y'all be dragging each other.
I'm gonna get off the phone.
No, y'all drag each other because I will hear you guys both be like, I didn't call for that. Meanwhile, I'm sitting downstairs in my room like, scrolling through Instagram,
looking at
looking at monkeys because I don't have to deal with that.
I can't deal. The baby orangutans is funny. Yeah, I think
it's like a loving. It's more like loving observations. That
it is. Like, it's not. Even like the other day, I was talking to somebody. I was like, I'm gonna say something, and I want you to know I mean it out of love. You're doing mental gymnastics. But like, I feel like something that's really important to me is to garner a relationship where you can be completely honest and know that everything you say. Now, if I was like, Samilia, you're being fucking crazy. Yeah. That would be a little bit, that's harsh. And that's not even trying to move the conversation
forward. Well, it's not loving, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, if you felt like I was doing something that was destructive, like, there's a loving way to do it, to express that to me. But to like be harsh to me is like without love, right? You know, like, oh, that's just stupid. Why would you do that? Because it feels as though you're making a critique of me as opposed to the situation.
Right? And that's so weird to me because like my friend this past weekend, she was going through something and she was hesitant on telling me about what was going on. We've been friends for like maybe like almost close to a year. She was at my dinner and she was talking to me and she goes, she didn't want to tell me what was going on. And, you know, I'm the kind of person where I'm not going to force you to tell me. I'll wait because eventually you will. And she did in that setting. But then later on she texted me and she's like, I'm really sorry. I don't mean to be a burden to you. And I had to text her back and I'm like, don't ever in your life text me like that again. Yeah. I'm your friend and you have room and space to tell me about what's going on. And I'm going to either help you with that or tell you what I think you should do. But don't ever in your life feel that you're a burden because you express something that makes you upset.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, I think a lot of people probably grow up or somehow in their people have made them feel like to have feelings is a burden. So like they're not able to hold that space for themselves. And so then that in turn makes them sometimes not able to hold space for other people.
Oh, for sure. Ooh, unpack that because you know what? I do think that might be a thing because I think that's probably why I deal with a lot of people that I deal with.
Yeah. I think that like, it's like you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So like if there's something...
Try to pour from an empty cup.
Nothing there. So
how one droplet.
How can I... Sploosh.
I'll love again when this fills up. It's like a colander.
It's a colander. You're doing the most. Okay.
It's a basket with the holes on the side.
No, I think that like if you look at water like nourishment, right? Like, and you look at love like nourishment, right? If I don't have love to give, like, at all, how can I pour nothing into your cup, right?
Yeah.
I don't even have it for myself. There's no nourishment for myself, so how can I nourish you?
Yeah.
And so
Condensation.
it's I'm done with you. Zach,
Hateration, holleration in the dancery.
calling your mother.
She ain't gonna do shit.
She's not.
Love you, girl.
Yeah, I just think that people sometimes she probably feels bad that she feels bad, you know, like if
Yeah,
she's
she
going,
did, and I was like, that's just a weird feeling to me. That's just a weird, not feeling, but that's like a weird concept to me. Because I'm like, I don't think I've ever been like, even when somebody tries to like how you felt. Me and Corinne both woke up with emotional hangovers after this past weekend about a situation that happened on my birthday, and I woke up with the emotional hangover in the aspect that like I felt like I was being like almost like a birthday Zilla, because like, you know, there were just certain things that were happening, and it was making me do a toxic thing where I was being passive aggressive. To me being passive aggressive is toxic, because I'm like, when I get passive, I get petty.
I don't think you were being passive aggressive, from what I saw.
Yeah.
If it's a situation that I think, I don't think you were being passive aggressive. But I think that like I say things in a way where it's like I get people to think, and it's like, but I make them feel dumb about doing it, because I'm like, well, why would you do this? You know what I mean? So like, that's why I think it's like in my head it's passive aggressive, because that's for them to feel dumb or not. You're not telling them you should feel dumb. Like they have to own their own feelings.
Yeah.
But like I think in that situation, to tell someone like, hey, no, this is actually how I see it, and this is not the appropriate place to have this conversation. If you want to have this conversation, we can talk about it over here. That doesn't feel very good to say to people, but it's not passive aggressive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Passive aggressive.
Because I'm like, you're not actually gonna do this. This is my birthday, and we can have this later.
Yeah.
And but I woke up with an emotional hangover.
But the funny thing is that if the people around you would have been hyping you up, it probably wouldn't have felt that way.
Right.
So then you have to examine. That is a time where you have to sit with yourself and be like, I think the most important work is self-work. And that's because you have to, people in the world will try to make you feel the way that they feel, right? Like in the situation, someone's like, well, this is my assessment of it. So then I want you to, if you agree with my assessment, then I'm right.
Right.
As opposed to being like, actually, like, let me sit with myself and my own feelings. And so with what you were saying, it's like, you know that, like, you know when you're being passive aggressive. You weren't being passive aggressive. You have to sit within yourself and say, okay, when I'm passive aggressive, I do X, Y, and Z. Did I do any of those 3 things? No. But that requires you to have like radical transparency with yourself to call and be able to call yourself on your own bullshit. And when you're able to do that, you're like, you're able to kind of like edify yourself. Like, no, I didn't do these things. So it doesn't matter what the rest of the people who are sitting around me think about what I've just said or done. I know that I am justified in my feelings, because what a lot of people will do is try to make you feel like you don't have the right to your own feelings.
Yeah.
Like you don't have the right to stand up for yourself.
I want healthy relationships. I know what toxic has been in my life. I'm good, love and joy.
I think that there needs to be a healthy balance between, like, you know, you can be in your own world. Like, you can feel like you're the main character of your own story, because I most certainly do. Once you step out in the real world, yes, you're the main character of your own life, but it's like not always
not
about you.
Right.
Like,
Right.
even the best TV shows,
Right.
everybody has an arc.
Yeah.
Like,
Everyone's a main character.
One Tree Hill,
Yeah.
everyone's a main character.
I love though in life, because like main character energy is a thing. I like live by that. But have you ever noticed it's not the main character that makes the show? It's the person on this. It's the supporting character.
Yeah.
The supporting. It's like it's like Gossip Girl.
Ariana Grande and Victoria Justice.
Oh,
I feel like as a because you.
But I would
have to
rather
be
be
this.
I'd rather let the main character go be the main, because the supporting character is who's going to carry the
free
show.
range. Yeah, it's free range.
I can do and be ever, because
They don't have to
while
be-
you're over here being the main character and everybody's looking at you to hold this persona, I can be whoever and do whatever. And you know what? Everyone's gonna be like, well, that's just her,
Right?
Because guess what? I don't
She's
have
just being Miley.
exactly.
No, it's true. I think that's very true.
I'd rather be the supporting character that is going to make the show.
Yeah.
Whereas the show might be about you, but it's actually it's actually about me.
The show's actually about everybody, because that's what makes it. I think the reason why shows like that last so long is because it's interesting. There are going to be times in shows and even in people's life where there's a lull.
Yeah.
But I think that if you live life based on your lull, like, you miss out on a lot. in a way, it's not all about you. Yes, it's about you, but it's not all about you.
Yeah. I think also, like...
Speak for yourself.
Relationships are important, right? We were built for community. We were built for relationships.
You're not supposed to live life alone.
You're not supposed to live life
We're
alone.
like Bijan for Jays.
So I think it's...
Yes, or like Bijan.
Yes, okay, please get out of the
R.I.P.
mineral oil.
Doused himself in it. It was like literally the world's worst dog, but he was the best.
He was not the worst dog.
I'm kidding.
He was a puppy, a poodle,
He was
living
really
at home in this huge house by himself, and everyone was gone.
I miss that dog.
What I was going to say, or a continuation of what I was going to say, is that, like, if you live your life like I'm just the main character, it's like nobody wants to be the sidekick, right? If you look at forever.
Yeah.
So if you look at, like, I think it's weird for PSA. I think it's weird to go around just thinking like I'm the main character and all my friends are my sidekicks.
Yeah.
Like, that's weird energy. I'll just put that out there. But it's nobody wants to be the sidekick for life, right? And so
Batman would have been nothing without Robin. First of all,
nobody wants to be the sidekick in their own story.
Correct.
So if you're
you're looking at it as if your story is the only one that matters,
right,
but they
I'm
have
the
their
main
own
character
story.
in your story.
Right. No,
yeah.
they're the main character of their own story.
Right.
You need to create space for people to do that.
Right.
Like,
that doesn't take
that
away anything from your story.
Yes.
Yeah, I think was something that's a big, huge pet peeve of me is people acting like they're the main character of my story.
Yeah, girl,
I'm like,
please. You just got here on the 32nd
right. You're still in the casting,
which is exactly why I felt the way. Which is why exactly why I felt the way I felt in that situation, where it's like, Madam, I've been a main character. You are an understudy.
Yeah.
Back to the back of the line.
You'll never be the main character in my story.
Right. Yeah.
I'll never be the main character in yours. I hope not.
Right.
Please don't.
Please don't. Yeah. That's unhealthy.
Yeah. Get help.
Stop it.
Stop it.
Get help.
Well, on that note, folks.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. You guys, please make sure you're following us on our Instagram at It's an OK Podcast. Make sure you're following us on Spotify or wherever you're listening to the podcast. We appreciate you guys so much. We always have a question prompt that you can click on our Spotify, so we would love for you to answer those.
Yeah, we want to hear from you guys, and just, if you've ever experienced any toxic relationships or friendships, and the things that you have either grown or learned from either of those, and what you're doing to make sure that you don't continue to walk the path of toxicity.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this has been It's an OK Podcast on toxic relationships and friendships.
I'm Samelia.
I'm Beth.
I'm Corinne Grace. See you next Monday.